Alright, timer started. This is Panzer versus Sef. There's I'm pretty sure it's Panzer with the Pterodactyl and then Sef with the Helvetic right now. I have no idea what the hell the matchup is. I better hope you have something that can take the Pterodactyl, bro. This is just a drudge waiting to happen. Alright, yeah, that's something that can take the Pterodactyl. This is the first thing that I'm doing this morning. Why do I subject myself to the torture of losing legacy? Pterodactyl's gonna have to swap here, it can't just set up immediately. Goes into Malmark on the first, letting Trackler get back to full HP. Malmark can now set up barbs, I think it has that. This is tear down Stratosaur, which I don't think it is because it's Perch. But if it's tear down Stratosaur, then this Malmark is not really a threat to it at all. Sef does switch up the Stratosaur into Sefadar though, as Malmark does come back and go into Grimmuline. Which is, like, quite frankly, really bad for Sef. Sef was probably trying to catch a Barbs coming from the Malmark onto the Stratosaur, which can really do anything. However, Grimmuline just decided to come out onto the Sefadar swap, and now Sefadar's on a bit of the back foot. Sefadar does obviously swap out into the Illuminati as a Rogue Assault does come out. There is no Gnarly Gash or Slap Down. That would be dealing super effective damage to this Illuminati, and now Grimmuline threatened with a Flash of City pivot into probably just like Stratosaur. That does also seem like he loves Grimmuline. Pterodactyl does come out, as we do see the swap back into Helvetic. So we're probably just going to see the cycle repeat once more, Zip Zap, Wavebreaker, unless they decide to do something else. But overall, this should end up as a winning position for Panzer until the Sefadar gamble. So actually, no, we do just see Sef swap into Illuminati on the Wavebreaker this time around. Not being immediately threatened by the Drudge. Megatron does come from his Illuminati onto the Terra that doing very little damage. wow, this is melee bulky. Honestly makes me wonder if it's fully melee invested or if this or if there's something else going on here. Village does come out. It's not Scorching Skin Village though, it's Heatwave Village, which is very interesting considering your wave record iridescent. So your wave record's actively doing less damage now. However, that also means that things like Luminami's wave record is also doing less damage. This does also mean though for except that they don't have to worry about Scorching Skin on Village RNG being a big factor in this battle. It is no longer a big worry. Still 33 minutes and 50 seconds left on the timer. So these players are not in any rush anymore. Billboard is honestly pretty threatening to this Luminami considering the Muckblast potential. However, I do believe it underspeeds Luminami on the speed invested. So we do just see the Toxic Filter Stratosaur swap in onto the Village. Now this could just be a Soul Burst Dissonant for it, however, Malamurk's probably coming in, and Malamurk's going to be able to take this damage very easily. So unless some swap is made to Helvantic, to which Panzer can just swap back into Village, it's still honestly pretty good. Actually, no, we get the Eruptodon come out. This probably means that Stratosaur is not Soul Burst. Eruptodon probably being the worst. There's not much this Eruptodon can do. There's a Dark Surge potential onto this Malamurk. However, knowing that Malamurk's probably very range defensive, how much is it going to do? Because we do know that Marsh Wave, if it runs that, I don't even know what Malamurk runs. Marsh Wave would be an Oko back. So it could also not beat Marsh Wave, or it might just not Oko because of the Heat Wave that they set up for themselves, reducing the water type damage. Malamurk does stay in, presumably going for Magnify or Burna. If it, I don't even remember if it has Burna. Haven't used Eruptodon since Season 0, so. However, beyond the point, Eruptodon Magmadire comes out, uses Hellstorm actually onto this Malamurk. His Malamurk does use Marsh Wave, not picking up an Oko, in fact only doing just barely more than half HP to it, which is very shocking. As a Dark Surge on this Eruptodon is probably picking up a KO onto this Malamurk, due to the low HP that it's at, especially with the Hellstorm chip. And from what we've seen so far, there isn't too many swap-ins for the Dark type move of Dark Surge from this Eruptodon, even at +0. Still going to be doing a lot of damage onto this Malamurk if it decides to stay in, due to the Hellstorm chip that will be happening at the end of the turn, plus the chip from any move that Eruptodon or others decide to use. Eruptodon does just use Fire Breath, not quite picking up the KO as Photosynthesis does come out from this Malamurk, bringing it back to green HP. However, the Hellstorm does bring it just slightly lower. However, there's no heat wave to boost the fire type moves of Eruptodon anymore. This Fire Breath will not be picking up the KO as Dark Surge does come out. And it's just barely still not picking up the KO. Wow. However, once more, this Malamar is now out of energy, so it will not be surviving past the next turn. One more Dark Surge, if not picking up the KO already. I haven't been counting. I don't know if Hellstorm's still up. However, Dark Surge does not pick up the KO. Sap Plant does come out from the Malamar onto the Eruptodon. And wait, does it live because of that? Oh, Hellstorm's out. I didn't even realize. Hellstorm is out. This is probably gonna be a swap from the Malamar onto maybe Terracescent. However, Helvantic does come out, as Malamar does just wait out the turn. With the knowledge that this Helvantic does have wild super effective moves, it'd probably just be best to sacrifice this Malamar and get a safe swap into, or you can actually just swap to Villafort. However, the Sefadar potential is still quite threatening, ironically. But the Villafort comes out, lowering your own water type moves, lowering the opponent's water type moves, but also powering up the opponent's Eruptodon's fire type moves as well, which is very threatening to Panzer right now. With potential Earthquake and or Landslide coming from this Villafort, will be picking up any KOs onto this Helvantic. However, it can also, our Panzer can also just hit the Fire Breath, which is relatively safe into the opposing team, as Helvantic does not really threaten Villafort in any current way. The Eruptodon is already incredibly chipped, and it's likely that the Stratosaur will be coming out. However, Luminami does come out, being a quadrifist to this Fire Breath, and now outspeeding the Villafort, being able to flash and flee back into any pivot that it wants, if it outspeeds, which it's likely that it will do to Villafort's base 24 speed and Luminami's base 45, I believe. Villafort does just retreat from Panzer's side, going into Malamar, potentially blocking this flash and play, but no, all it does is block a Mega Chomp, or take a Mega Chomp. Malamar does now faint, but heat is still up, and now Panzer is forced into a Lumion that they would probably not originally want to go into this current moment. Panzer is now trying to decide on what swaps into this Luminami here, being weirdly threatening into their team. Not with the threat of dealing damage, but more with the threat of pivoting out into something that can deal a lot of damage, such as Stratosaur or Helvantic or Eruptodon. And the Swim Line's coming out onto this Luminami, threatening maybe a slap down, or heck, even a Rogue Assault to come out onto this Luminami. Our timer is currently at 25 minutes and 30 seconds. Sef does just swap out the Illuminati going into the Stratosaur, and this Gnarly Gash does come out onto the Stratosaur, dealing over 50%. Meaning that one more Gnarly Gash will be picking up this KO. Now, obviously, Sef can't Soul Burst this Stratosaur to be able to outspeed this Grimuline. If it doesn't already, I don't know. Stratosaur's speed tier. However, either way, I don't think that it actually picks up the KO onto this Grimuline without a Soul Burst. So, Sef will probably have to just swap out anyways here, as Grimuline does just use Gnarly Gash, picking up the KO onto the Stratosaur. Illuminati does come out onto the potential Gnarly Gash from this seemingly gloves Grimuline, as Panzer now has no more swaps, but Gnarly Gash does just come out dealing so much damage onto this Illuminati, as Illuminati just flashes face out into one of Sef's big threats, such as Eruptodon, although Eruptodon will just die to another Gnarly Gash. And then Palvantic does just get, if not dying itself, does also just get walled by the Villforge. Grimuline does just decide to retreat into the Villforge, essentially onto the Zip-Zap. Zip-Zap does come out onto this Villforge. Villforge is now at nearly 50% HP. Part of me wants to wonder if this is actually heat scale Villforge, and I've not been counting the heat wave turn the pack, to be completely honest. However, Updog does decide to come out onto this turn now. And now, Landslide, I think, is pretty free. There's nothing that can really stop Landslide that's been revealed onto Panzer's side that I remember. From what I remember, all he really has is Terradescent, Grimuline, and Villforge. I don't remember if there's a fourth one, or if that fourth one died, or if the fourth one's even been revealed. Eruptodon is still in a very threatening position, and Landslide does just come out onto this Villforge. Now, this does mean that Sefadar does not have to worry about his Palvantic being able to do anything, but this Bearglyph actually comes out. Bearglyph is the final Lumion of Panzer's side, which I believe will be outspeeding this Eruptodon, unless Eruptodon is very nimble. Which even then, Bearglyph might outspeed if it's nimble. I don't know the speed tier of Bearglyph. I think it's around 100. But I think Eruptodon is around like 84. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, that would be embarrassing. However, Bearglyph does just use Hasten while this Eruptodon stays in, using Fire Breath. Fire Breath not quite picking up a KO, but giving Bearglyph the temper boost that it needs. This +2 Bearglyph with +1 speed. This could just be a straight up sweep from this Bearglyph, if Sef does not have the proper tools to go against it. Palvantic does come out. Palvantic is one of the only options left for Sef right now. If Sef can pick up the KO onto this Ferroglyph with Helvantic. And this might just be a GG's for Seth. But Helvantic actually decides to swap out into the Sefadar, as Psycho Blast does come out, dealing nearly 50%. However, this Ferroglyph will be living till the next turn. However, there are many moves that this Ferroglyph will be able to hit, which is +2. I'm unsure of the moveset of this specific Ferroglyph, but Ferroglyph does get a lot of coverage overall. It's important to note that Vesper will not die to another Psycho Blast from this Ferroglyph, even at +2. But Dark Surge does come out from this Ferroglyph that will be picking up a KO onto this Vesper. And this might just be good game and well played by Panzer. With a Ferroglyph cleaning up the game. Illuminati coming out one more time. Will Illuminati be taking this +2 Dark Surge? And even if it does, or even if he swaps out to Helvantic, Helvantic probably dies. And then Illuminati can just come in and clean up as well. This should always just be a game win for Panzer, unless there's some insane RNG factor. But what you have to do is you just have to click the green arrow. Click the green arrow as much as you can. Helvantic comes out, Dark Surge comes out. Dealing over 50%. I believe this Ferroglyph does outspeed unless it is Boots Helvantic. There's one way and one way only. Yeah, that Seth wins this, and if it's Boots Helvantic that somehow outspeeds, this Ferroglyph does just pick up the KO onto his Helvantic, and now I believe it is only Illuminati left on Seth's side. Versus this +2 Ferroglyph, and even if it does tank this Dark Surge from the Ferroglyph, it will not be able to tank the Gloves Grimuline. That will be coming afterwards. GG's.